What is the Trump administration hiding? That is the question tonight after Pete Hegseth announced he would not release to the public the full, unedited video of that controversial double-tap boat strike.
In keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top-secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public.
That announcement was made following a briefing Hegseth and Marco Rubio gave to the Senate on those boat strikes. Meanwhile, Trump Chief of Staff Susie Wiles cast doubt on the possibility of Venezuelan land strikes in her Vanity Fair conversation, saying, quote, if he were to authorize some activity on land, then it's war. Then we'd need Congress. That hasn't stopped the president's attempts to escalate. Moments ago, he said he was ordering, quote, a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona.
Well,
you know, there's so much.
You take
You
it.
know what? At
Yeah.
least now we no longer have to debate what the administration is really doing in Venezuela with these boat strikes, because the president's own chief of staff told us. This is what the Vanity Fair article says. Over lunch, Wiles told me, Chris Whipple, about Trump's Venezuela strategy. He wants to keep blowing up boats until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say that he will. Wiles' statement appears to contradict the administration's official stance that blowing up boats is about drug interdiction, not regime change. Her statement literally says that this is essentially a regime change pressure campaign, and one that is being carried out with no authorization from Congress.
Well, if you look at the facts, it clearly is a regime change movement. Look at the amount of people they're using, the amount of manpower, staff, the amount of aircraft carriers, platforms. To go after, maybe $10,000 boats, you have, F-35s, the most exquisite platform we have in Latin America right now. It makes zero sense. This is a whole movement, largely led by Marco Rubio, to topple Venezuela, so that is one more thing, so you go and topple Cuba. That's it. And so they're trying to pressure Venezuela to do two things. Either number one, Maduro, or internally he gets toppled, or number two, it causes a reaction which will trip us into war. These guys want to get us into a war. They want to create a justification for us to be in a war. So what do? They shut down the airspace. They're shutting down commerce. And forget about these drug dealers. Most of those drugs aren't even coming here. They're going to Europe. They're going to other places. But what they're trying to do, again, is to trip us into the war, because they know the most important thing is the American public hates war. We're sick of war. This president ran on being against war, and now because of a bunch of neocons around him, Cuban neocons, they want to get us into a war so that way they could finally fulfill their full vision of a Latin America without Cuba and without Venezuela being under control of communists.
So I guess in everything you've just said, it begs the question, so what the hell did you hear today in this briefing? What did they say? What are they going to take? Because my take is they're not going to do anything. They're not releasing the Epstein files. They're not releasing the Venezuelan tapes. They're not releasing anything that they don't want to release. So what was the point? We know, to Simone's point, that they want to create this line for Maduro.
The point was so they could say that they did it. And their justification was it's not war unless we actually send ground troops into Venezuela. That is not true. When you are effectively, I know
they said that in the briefing,
and they said that publicly too. I wouldn't say what exactly was said in the briefing because it's classified, but we know what they said that publicly too. That is not a justification. There's no justification for what they're doing now. Again, drug dealers are bad. There are lots of ways to deal with this. Execution without trial is not one of them. But more importantly, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get us into a war.
So
that's it.
So to finish my thought, what are you going to do about it? I mean, we have this conversation, Senator, every day. And the administration does more and more. Now they're saying, oh, we're going to have a meeting. Okay, you had a meeting.
No, they said, back up. They said they're having a meeting. I've introduced War Powers Resolution Act. It's going to have a vote. It's going to, when we come back in January, to hold these guys accountable. Let's see if I have Republican colleagues that join me. What happens between now and then, we'll see. I'll escalate as things escalate. So let's not get this like, oh, Democrats aren't doing anything. No, we're here in the situation because we are powerless because the way this was designed, so it's supposed to be joint power, and there was going to be a Senate that was going to hold the executive responsible. The forefathers did not ever assume, or didn't assume, that we would have cowardice, full cowards that are coming out of the Republican Party. That's what's happening right now. If I had Republicans joining me, if we had Republicans joining me, Tim Kaine, we could stop this. We don't. We are going to war. These guys are taking us to war. Let us be clear. That is what's happening.
Which is really incredible, given that part of what they campaigned on was America first, no more foreign intervention, no more foreign wars. I do want to ask you about your war powers resolution. It would invoke a 60-day deadline for Congress to formally authorize the deployment of military resources after the administration notifies Congress of a conflict. Let's talk about the timeline on that. President Trump's administration gave that notice in early October, meaning that window has passed. There are actually a few war powers resolutions floating around right now. My understanding is yours focuses on the troops and trying to extricate the troops from these acts. Tell me why that focus.
Because if we can actually start extricating them, we're inching away from war, right? And also we want to start putting our Republican colleagues on the record. Because I don't want people to come and say Democrats didn't do our best. No, Democrats are unified. We don't want to go to war in Venezuela. Republicans right now want to start and create a war. They want to give enough avenue and space for these guys to trip us into a war, and then we find ourselves, having to go and defend what had happened. How does that look like? At some point, there may be, bombing runs that happen. A couple planes go down. Next thing you know, we have to go to war. Maybe we send in troops, special operations troops, and they get ambushed. Guess what? Now we're in a war. I'm trying to make sure that we could take every step possible to pull us away from that. But this president has a lot of power. Marco Rubio has a lot of power. And Marco Rubio has decades of hatred for Venezuela and Cuba. And he's going to use whatever power he can to get us into this war. I tell you right now, we need to do everything to keep us out of this. I don't want a war. America does not want a war. There's a couple people in that administration that do, and they're going to do everything they can to get us into this war.
Maybe because I'm a layperson. But I am actually shocked by the clarity with which you are saying not only are that they might try to take us to war, they are actively on the path to taking us to war with Venezuela. We don't know, to be frank, it sounds like you don't know what exactly they're doing. None of us know what exactly they are doing in the country right now. They didn't provide any clarity on that today. They didn't provide any clarity on the boat strikes. I think that there's a lot of I'm concerned. I'm concerned every night on this show, but I'm very concerned about what you're saying.
Like, I'm a baby of an illegal war. I went to war in Iraq, a war that should never happen, that was illegal, that was fabricated by people that wanted the war to happen. This is happening again. This is the Iraq War 2.0 with a South American flavor to it. They're trying to do it right now. I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but I'm telling you right now, if you look at what they have down there, all the assets they have down there, all the actions they're doing and they're taking, this is absolutely an effort to get us involved in a war in Venezuela.
So what do you think the response of the American people will be to what they're hearing tonight from you?
Well, hopefully they're pissed off. Hopefully they call the Republican senators and members of Congress and say that I don't want to go to war. But there's a reason why they're doing the way they're doing it. The reason they're slowly building up, saying we're going to go after these drug dealers first, then they're going after tankers, then they're going to close the airspace, then they're hoping Venezuela reacts in some hostile way to defend their own sovereignty, then we'll have to react, and then the president's going to come here and ask everyone to rally around the flag, and that's how we find ourselves in war. What I'm telling you is they're setting it all up to happen. Be aware. Be aware of what they're doing. They're slowly putting the pressure on Venezuela so they react. And so the American public gets used to us doing hostile acts. We went from putting sanctions to droning speedboats. And the American public hasn't reacted that bad. So what else are they going to continue doing until we finally find ourselves in war? But let's be clear. The goal of what they're doing right now is to get us into war. They're not going to be able to stop the drug trade. They're not effectively going to have to go after narcos in this way. At the end of the day, all they want to do is get rid of Maduro. And if they can get rid of Maduro through peaceful manner, they will. It's not working right now. If they trigger a war to happen, they'll gladly do it.
That warning means more from someone who has seen the field of battle. Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
After a quick break, Republicans have all but ensured that health care premiums will skyrocket for millions of Americans. DNC Chair Ken Martin is here to respond only on the Weeknight.